Parkways. This one's reaching across the street, gives me the entire front. Here's the print, it's showing a entire front-ish and across the street, so that's a good answer. This next answer, there's no front out to the middle of the street, so that's automatically a wrong. There we go. You've seen this one a bunch of times, right?
Oh.
Yeah. So now what did they do on like the third time?
Change the address.
Change the address, just to see if you're paying attention. 96, 97, so that's the down, that's this building this time though, one to the bottom. Entire property, so normally it was just from the middle of the street to the back alley, but now this is a double corner house, so we need to make sure that we're getting it to all the middles. So this one doesn't go all the way down to the bottom, middle of the street. This one, now it finally goes to the bottom, middle of the street, but it's not going all the way over to the middle of Bryan Street. All right, looks like we finally got a winner. It's the bottom house, 96, 97, goes out to the middle, goes out to the middle. Looks like my extent is matching up. So last time you had to call Watch and Protect because there was a mop main within 100 feet, but now this time you got to call Watch and Protect because the mop main is in the extent.
Mm-hmm.
This one is saying locate the south side of the street across from Building A. Across from Building A. So we don't need anything marked at Building A, we just need across the street. So that means from the middle of the street to about a foot past the sidewalk. And it's a townhome unit. And it's not specifying all the units. So it would have to say A and B. And it would have to say just locate property A, do not locate property B, but it doesn't say that. So we gotta assume that it's talking about the whole building and make sure we're getting all across the street on the south side, from the middle to the sidewalk. So this looks like the best answer so far. It's on the south side of the street, but it's not hitting the entire building. This is hitting the entire building, but it's on the north side of the street. All right, this answer looks better. It's got the full building, it's on the south side of the street. And the print matches, so there we go.
But that would never be a descriptor out in the field.
What do you mean?
You would have an address on the other side of the street.
Not all the time. Does every house have a neighbor across the street? No, but they might be digging across the street of a house. They might be putting a new pole. They might be putting up a new pole across the street from a house. So the electric company's gonna call in the address, but they're gonna say, mark across the street from that address. This seems to be like entire property, and it borders the street to the bottom and it borders the street to the top. And this one's all the way over in left field, so it doesn't matter. Easy, wrong answer. Number 4. Locate the south side of the rural street in front of the elementary school. So this is kind of like the last question we just had, except it wants it in front of the school on the same side of the street as the building that it's asking for. So we just need to make sure we're looking at the left bound, so we can kind of see a property line here. We can see a fence line over here. And we need in front of the school on the south side of the street, so we need in the middle, down to about a foot past the sidewalk. So I need a shape that looks something like that. Just right in front of the school on the south side from the middle of the street to the sidewalk, right from here to here. I got the backyard of those houses over there, I got the side yard of these houses over here. I got the little street right here, so I gotta go a little bit past the street and down over there. So this is the right shape, it's just on the wrong side of the street. Here we go, we got this, it matches up, it's on the south side of the street, it's got the sidewalk, the middle of the street, it goes over to the right, and the print actually matches up. So that's gonna be my right answer. This is the school yard, but it's not taking it all the way to the street, so that's not even an extent that we would ever choose. Well, this kind of looks like the one we chose. It's got front of the house, front of the school, it's going from the left to right, middle of the street, right past the sidewalk. But the print does not match up. The print did not go all the way past the street. We need to go a little bit past this side street, we need to go a little bit farther. So a little sneaky. And this one's over out in right field, so that's an easy one to rule out. This looks like the front, but it's not going to the middle of the street. We always take it out to the middle of the street. Locate the west side of building A to the east side of building B. East side of building B would be the right side of building B. The west side of building A is the left side over there. And you just box it out. So we've seen this one quite a few times, so that one looks right away. Let me just double check, locate the west side of building A, east side of building B. It's not asking any right away to right away, nothing like that. And the print seems to match up. So it's nice when it's the first one right away. That's not matching any of the proper east, west, south sides of the house that I was asking for. That one's way out in left field. When in doubt, just mark it all out. That's what that one is. You'll be there all day, but you won't get damaged, that's for sure. So like this one, how this one said, mark the east side of building B and the west side of building A. I'm kind of taking that same energy and bringing it to this next question. So this says locate from the west side of building A. So if I just kind of think about that whole west side of building A, all the way to the east side of building J, and I kind of just make sure I got that whole east side. That's the first part. The second part is asking for go along the south right of way. So that means from the middle of the street all the way down. And we wanted something like that. We want to make sure we go out to the middle of the street. We want to make sure we got the east side of building J, and we want the west side of building A. And then when you just kind of box it out and connect it, you get something like that shape. So that's the one you should have picked. Even though the answer says it's the other one, this is the one you should have picked.
Was that the one where the red went all the way to the back too?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, this is the one where the red went all the way to the back. So the first one we can rule out because that's across the street, so that's wrong. This one gives me everything it was asking for. This one takes it all the way to the east side of J. So this one is the best one so far. Remember, I always say the best one. The one that has everything you need. You would never want to pick one that has less than what they asked for. Always do more.
So if the ticket says the west side, or the west side of building A to the east side of building J, we're considering that as if we're looking at the house, the right side of the building of A and the left side of building J.
So north, south, east, and west are always, doesn't matter which way you're looking at, you got to pull the compass out, so the west side is always going to be the west side. And then the east side is always going to be the east side. Now, would I just mark the whole backyards of all these houses? I would probably call the contractor first just to confirm that that's exactly what he needs. Right? But as far as the test question is concerned, I'm going to say, yeah, I'm marking all that stuff.
I think I was confused when I picked the answer. Like, well, technically, the side is the center of the street to the rear property line. Because is up from the side all the way down the road.
But it doesn't only say the south right away.
It says, it first starts out and says, make sure you got the west side of building A and the east side of building J, and it also says go along the south right away.
So wouldn't you only do the south right away?
No, because it said, it starts with the west side of building A, so we wanna make sure. So what they could be doing on this example is they could be redoing the gas main in all these gas services. So they need, wherever the gas service could kind of be on the back of the house, could be far in the back corner, right? They're not always in the front. Right? So yeah, we wouldn't really need to mark the whole backyard, but they, just so they have that, if they need that, they got it.
So you guys know what the scope is, if the scope is like a cash replacement, we're not gonna get a figure up to the certain,
Right. I can understand how you see the south right away and only the south right away. I can interpret it like that too. I see what you're saying. But the one answer that only does that doesn't go to the east side of building
I
J.
put that one, you got it right.
I know, but the answer's wrong. In the
Yeah, I know, but I was just.
Well, I'm just also saying if someone picked this one, that's why I agree with you and I'm saying you're right. And you should get an extra point, right? And I should boost up your score.
Well, I picked that one, so
Yeah, so if you pick this one, you should get one more point. A lot better. So give yourself credit if you took this one, and so if that boosts you from a 16 to a 17, congratulations, you passed.
Yeah.
Boosts me from a 19 to a 20. Right. So this should be the right answer as far as I'm concerned.
Okay.
Because this one does go from the west side of building A. It is in the south right away, all the way, but it doesn't give me,
It doesn't give you what it would make sense.
and it doesn't give you that. So I understand why some people pick this one, but you know, it's obviously missing the east side of building J.
Yeah.
So this one should be wrong.
Okay.
I have a question just before this one. I don't know if I'm overthinking, but wouldn't the answer actually be wrong and the one we had before this?
I don't think so. Just went over it and I drew it. It should be.
Because the print doesn't match, it's covering the driveway behind, or in front of building A. It's calling for the east side
No,
of building
the whole
A.
question, yeah, that.
No, this one's obviously, there's only one right answer, it's this one.
Is the print, what confused me was the print below it.
Yeah, the print is offset but the street's offset, so when you look at this print, the road is really far over to the left. But when you look at the print, the road is in the middle of the print. So yeah, it should be like that. It should be like that, because here's the road, right? Here's the road, here's the road. So if the road's over here, it needs to be moved over this much. And so that's exactly where it needs to be. My question. All right, so this should be the one you got. I understand why you picked this one, because it looks more like what they described, but it's not getting that one. And I want you to make sure when you take the Nicor test, you're giving it at least everything it asked for, never anything less.
Wouldn't you have to get?
I just did, cause I looked at the last one, I'm like, well, it didn't say anything about going into the rear of the backside.
Yeah, it's kind of sneaky when it says the side of the house there, so. And where does the side normally do? The side means all the way from the middle of the street, all the way to the back corner of the back lot.
So when taking the Nicor test, which one will get it correct?
The one that I picked, this one right here.
That's the correct one?
Yeah, because it gives you everything at least that you need, right? It doesn't give you anything less. Louis, what kind of gas main we got here?
So 4-inch welded steel high pressure started in 1947.
Is that A, B, or C, or D?
B.
Orange weld steel intermediate? D? Everyone needs subtitles. Can't watch TV without subtitles. gas main?
Did you say Matt?
Yeah,
Me, Matt?
Matt Joy.
8 feet south of the south.
8 feet south of the south property line. So what are you supposed to do? What's the rule? You gotta either turn your thing counterclockwise, which is the same thing as turning your head to the right. So I always say turn your head to the right, 8 feet south of the south. Eight feet south of the south. All right, Matt, what type of gas main is this and where does it sit on Route 173?
3-inch welded steel mop line at 230 PSI, installed in 1965, 45 feet north of the center line of Route 173.
We got a 3-inch steel mop, it's got MOP, 230 PSI, installed in 1965, and 45 feet north of the center line. That's the center line and it's up.
3-inch punch.
Which answer is that, A, B, C, or D?
B is in Bravo.
Bravo. Alexander, you got this one?
Yes. 2-inch welded steel, high pressure main, installed in 1962, travels east to a tin whistle, transitions into a 12-inch, 12-inch welded steel mop main, installed in 1955, that continues east.
Yep, hit all the key factors. Never use that though. So is that A, B, C, or D?
D.
Describe all the labeled gas mains on this print below. Damien, what type of gas main is this one?
8-inch, welded steel, mop line, 230 PSI, built in 1959.
8-inch welded steel mop, look at the lines, 1, 2, 3, MOP, 230 pound sign, not hashtag, 1959. So which one is that you just did?
Right there.
Mop main, right? Got two more gas mains though. We got a 2-inch welded steel high pressure, 1958. A 2-inch welded steel high pressure, 1991. So it looks like A, B, and D. A, B, and D. You know A and B. So this says both A, B. This both says A, B, but it's D or C. We know D was the right one because that's a mop. Where's the coupler? On Willow. So we got a couple streets here, we got a couple couplers, so we gotta make sure we're picking the right one. Take your time. That's probably the #1 rule about this test. Just take your time, read it carefully. I know y'all can do it, but if you're going fast, you'll rush and make a mistake. We got coupler #1 and we got coupler #2, but it wanted the one on Willow, right? So we got Willow Street right there. Got my center line right here. So that makes this a west property line that it's getting measured off of, and I'm more west, 127 feet west of the west. And I need to choose one. Do I choose this 10 or this 10? Which one's closer? 10. Right, technically this one's closer, right? That's for the middle of my street. That's my south property line, and it's above it. So 10 feet north of the south property line. 127, 10. 27 and 10. Two 127s, 110, 110, they both say 127 and 10. North of the south property line, north of the south property line. 127 feet west of the west. So yep, this one says it right. 127 feet west of the west property line of Unknown Road, and 10 feet north of the south property line on Willow. Valve on State. So we got a lot of state streets. I think this one's goofy because it's got that weird measurement off of the corner. You know, and the measurement doesn't really line up with the property line that well. Right, but I got my valve, it's right down there in the corner.
Going
Really gotta
northeast.
zoom in on these.
The other ones are on
Got
different
that little
streets.
extension line right here that's saying 2. My center line is right here, this is the north property line, and I'm barely above it. 2 feet north of the north, 12 feet west of the east.
Will there be things this tight on,
I don't remember.
I mean, that 2-foot measurement and 3-foot measurement are almost identical.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, they're pretty dang close. If the thing doesn't zoom in, like, I've never had anyone complain of all the people that have taken it that, oh man, I couldn't tell between those two measurements because it was so crowded. I've never heard anyone make that complaint, so.
Maybe they were just as scared.
2 feet north of the north. None of these start with 2 feet north of the north. 12 feet west of the east. Only one of them starts with 12 feet west of the east, and the second one is 2 feet north of the east. So even if you thought it was 3 feet, right? 15 does not match up. Reducer, what does a reducer reduce, Louis?
Gas pressure.
Sneaky question, yeah, no, it reduces the pipe size.
Is that a question?
It's not a Nicor question, but it's just something that you will need to, when you're actually locating gas mains, you gotta label them correctly, so you gotta pay attention. So here, you know, our job is sometimes to paint the end of main. How do we paint the end of main? You gotta put that T on it, you gotta put the 3 flags in, and then you gotta spell EOM at the end of it, end of main. Right, so we gotta label the gas main 2 inch, 2 inch, 2 inch, 2 inch, and then very, very at the end, we'd have to make sure we label it 3/4 inch. Got 3/4 inch here, that little stub at the end, 3/4 inch, while the whole rest of it is 2 inch. And they wouldn't fail you an audit on this one, I don't think they would, but clearly if you're on a main block and in the middle it's a reducer and it's 2 inches on one side and 4 inches on the other, and you're not labeling it correctly, Nicor could fail you on an audit.
Is there a way to tell when you hit a reducer?
With your equipment, no. You would just have to kind of look at the measurement, and you might have a wheel in your truck, you might be able to wheel it, or you just have to pace your steps. You know, the average step is maybe 2.5 feet, 2.2 feet.
Keep going as you.
So you go like 2, 4, 6, 8, you know, you just walk it. If you do 100 steps, times that by 2, it's 200 feet.
And then you just write the reducer fitting symbol.
You wouldn't write reducer, you
Put
wouldn't
the
paint it.
different
But
size.
you, yeah, you would just know that 2 inches on one side, 4 inches on the other, and then somewhere there's a spot. So the reducer, I got,
What would be a reason they would put like a reducer right at the end of main?
you know, that looks really weird and goofy to me, I don't know, right there.
Or maybe it was like damaged and.
Yeah, and they just needed an extra, so there might not have been a house built there on the corner yet, on the cul-de-sac, and then they built one, and then they just needed to like extend it with an extender a little bit.
So those are the only fittings and stuff they had.
Because both were installed in 1952, if you look at it, so it's not like it was a damage that happened later, so.
So material had ended.
Easy get out of there was Friday.
So I got 172 feet north of the north. I can see my arrow starting at the top property line, middle of street top, that's north property line, and I gotta go up north of the north. 172. So that's 172 north of north, that's north of the north. So I know it's either one of these two. This says north of unknown road, this says Thorn Road, right? Nothing says Thorn Road here, right? Nothing in the question says Thorn, so I'm thinking it's just this one right away.
Yeah, Von Known.
3 feet east of the west, yep, and so if you kind of slide this over, 3 feet east from the west property line, over your west side of the street, 3 feet east of the west.
Yum, 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 yum.
Where's the end of Maine on Dover Court? Benjamin,
Dover?
Dover.
Oh,
Zoom in for him, he doesn't have pulled up on anything.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to zoom because I can only see one little section at a time.
that's at the bottom. That looks funky. Like a shaft.
They got the two north and south.
It's gonna be 385 feet south of the center line, and it's like 10 feet, west of the east property line.
385 feet south of the center line, 10 feet west of the east. So, you know, I don't think they properly followed the rule where you're supposed to turn your head to the right. Because if you turn your head to the right, you know, it would be 10 feet south of the north, and then 385 feet east of the center line. But that's not even an option on there.
They just based it off the center line, so the center line is.
Yeah, that center line is clearly east and west, so that would be kind of silly to do turn your head on that one. But that's why I don't like this example. It's clearly north and west or something.
Well, no, you said earlier, there's an exception every rule.
Oh, yeah, there is an exception every.
So the answer you put was right, Pete.
Yeah, 10 feet west of the east. So that's kind of the east, and it's west of it just by a little bit, 10 feet west of the east. 385 starting here, going down, 385 feet south, up the center line. Where's the detail stub? Notice how they kind of make it ambiguous. They just kind of circle a spot. They're kind of pointing in the right direction, but then they give you three things that you can potentially pick there.
And one of the answers has one of the measurements that it's pointing into. That points into the.
Detail stub. So do we take the measurement from the bottom of the stub or the part that sticks out the most?
Sticks out the most.
Sticks out the most. So I know I want my 24.
24 feet.
I got my 24 and my 7. So if I
7.
just look at 24 and 7, there's only one answer that has both 24 and 7 in it. But let's just make sure we can do that. Here's the middle of my road, that's my center line. Here's the south property line, and you gotta go down. 24 feet south of the south property line. 24 feet south of the south. And that's what it says, 24 feet S/S. That means south of the south. 7 feet west of the east, I can see that right away. Miller Street, that's an east property line, and it's to the left. That's west of the east. What is 29 feet south of the center line and 38 feet east of the center line? Lewis? It's like, that's tic-tac-toe. If I won 3 Lewis right there. So 29 feet south and 38 feet east. 38 measurement there, you got your 29 measurement there. When you intersect them, what do you got there? Oh, yep.
Can you zoom in for 38 feet from the center line? And then 31 feet, so 38 feet from the center line of, east of the center line.
39 feet, 38 feet east of the center line.
And what are those measurements pointing to?
Yeah, where are those measurements combining? So when you combine the 29 and you combine the 38, they intersect, right? And what's right there? What symbol is that? What symbol is right here when you put this and you put this? It's kind of a messed up looking one, but what is it?
That's a reducer.
Reducer, yep. And what is it reducing here? It looks like we got a 4-inch into a 2-inch. Lateral well T, where's the lateral well T? Can I get a volunteer? Caesar.
It's kind of like a corner, black circle.
Yep.
So I had used the piece on the bottom left. Kind of down below. It's not screening over. Like 8 foot east of the west center line, or not east of the west property line. Lines up with that going up, and then the 7 I had gone going south of the north property line of more than the windmill.
Yep, 7 feet south of the north property line of Lindlore Lane and 8 feet east of the west. Something like Airlight Road, right? 7 feet south of the north. There we go, we got 7 feet south of the north and 8 feet east of the west. There we go. So only 2 answers that were possible. All right, this one is a little tricky. Where's the end of main located on this print? Right, we got this big circular part, that's a court. And then we got the road, up and down road here, that's an unknown road and unknown court. So we want to know where the end of main is. So you take this 3-foot measurement, and you got to spin it all the way up, and imagine it's here. So that would be 3 feet south of the north property line if you spin that around the dial. Almost imagine that it's drawn right here. 3 feet down from the up, 3 feet south of the north of unknown court. And so then that process of elimination, the next one's gotta be west of the west, 25 feet west of the west. So here's our west property line, that's our middle of the road center line. And 25 feet more west, 25 feet west of the west, of unknown road. 3 feet south of the north, 3 feet south of the north of unknown court, 3 feet south of the north of unknown court. So I got these 2 possible answers right here, but I need 25 feet west of the west. I know C's not even a proper answer. Why is C not even a proper answer?
South and south.
Yeah, it's 2 north and south measurements. There we go. Alright, what would cause this area inside the circle to be a difficult locate? We're looking for anything insulated?
Yup. Transition coupler.
Insulated trans,
DTL stubs, 2 of them.
2 detail stuff. Are pressure control fittings hard to locate?
Nah.
No, your signal should just go right through them, right? So we got 1, 2, 3, 4 different things. 2 detail stubs, 1 insulated coupler, 1 insulated transition. So
Yeah.
that's my answer right there.
There's an 8-inch main there too.
There's an 8-inch main, that's critical, but this time it's not asking if there's something critical in the circle, but that is a possibility that they might ask you that.
You have to do detail or and
And so, in my opinion, the perfect score is 19 out of 20. Unless you pick that